Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with my review of the premiere episode of Power Rangers Ninja Steel, episode 1. I don't know why I would clarify that it was episode 1, but it's the premiere episode, episode 32. I guess Samurai did premiere like on its 4th episode or 3rd or something. Anyway, so this was the debut of the new series and the return of my weekly reviews, usually on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, depending. I wanted to get this out on the day since it's the premiere. So, and honestly, it was solid. I thought it was solid. I'm gonna actually get the negative things out of the way first that I didn't like, so that I can keep most of the video like less negative and then kind of end on a positive note in a manner of speaking. So, the things I didn't like, first and foremost, was the use of the past suits. We saw a bit of that in Dino Charge last year, and throughout the series history there has been instances where we've reused a suit, but sometimes we altered it, and it wasn't major. But, like, you know, we started last year with Dino Charge with, you know, the, like, stuff like Necroli in the prison and stuff like that. But we, like, full on I think I even saw Necroli in the audience at the Galaxy thing. But, like, we, like, using major suits, like the Fear Cat, Mig, and I think it was Mig, and then, you know, one of Venjix's suits. And that stuff just bothers me because so many fans are like, oh, it's an Easter egg, they care about us. And to me, it's like a slap in the face to years of continuity. For right now, I'm honestly just gonna assume we're gonna in our own continuity. Just every year, like Sentai, because they act like they don't know what a Power Ranger is anyway. So I'm just gonna assume that, and that's okay. Like, I prefer the fact that we had our own connected universe, because that's what made Power Rangers special from Sentai and Rider, which is like they're connected but they're not, and it's a hot mess right now. But that always made it special. Like I've said in previous videos, it wasn't perfect, but it made it special. So I prefer them to all be connected, because I think it's neat. And then maybe you have a one-off season every now and then like RPM. But if we're gonna do it in its own separate universe, just say that. It would be nice. Most other franchises, when they come out with a comic book or a TV show or any sort of medium, they usually go out of their way to say, this isn't in this universe, so, you know, don't expect this character to show up or this character to be the same. It just kind of makes you feel better. Like I said, I would prefer it to be connected, but if it's not, if they just said it, honestly, it would take away like 30% of my, like, just general upsettedness. That's not even a word, but, you know, my general, I was trying to think of, like, Discord? There was a word I was thinking of, I couldn't think of it. But, like, just, in general, I would be less upset. Like, a lot of the things I talk about and that bother me wouldn't be there if they would just say, hey, this is its own universe. Then you're just thinking, oh, look, it's alternate universe versions of these suits and stuff. But, for now, that just bothers me on such a large scale. I don't see it as an Easter egg. I see it as just a lack of regard. And then stuff like, I have to mention it just because it bothers me, within like the first 10 minutes they said to Ninja Galaxy. I hate those references. It's not clever. It's like so in your face, like a pee-filled balloon. And I wish they had more subtle little references if they wanted to give a nod. That kind of stuff bothers me. So I don't like that stuff. So like I said, I'm just going to assume we're in our own universe for now unless something else happens. Like apparently there's a rumor of past cameos which will just further fork things up. So, yeah, anyway, the only other thing I really can think of that I didn't like is just some of the dialogue, like, mainly the humor. Like, I've mentioned this before, but so much of the humor they use is this really campy, slapstick, outdated humor that's not really hugely present in other things right now. And the thing I was thinking about the most in this episode is, you know what, if you want to do that, fine, but I really hope that throughout the series we can get a balance of maybe some more clever, funny humor, and then you can do your stupid pie-in-the-face bit. But just make it a balance. So, because the new Dino Charge's Supercharges in, it felt like it was just all that, you know, all slapstick stupidness. So if you're gonna do it, which I still think you shouldn't because it's outdated, just give me a balance, you know, so other people have stuff to laugh at. And like that particularly was introduced in, I can't remember their names yet, but the two sort of Bulk and Skull side characters. It was like a generic jock and then Minkus from Boy Meets World. That's where he actually was during those other seasons. He wasn't there, and then he reappeared in Girl Meets World. But anyway, that's for another video, but I'm not going to do a video on that. But again, those are like, they're like the stereotype of all stereotypes, and the way they act like isn't human, which like just bothers me. Not like they're like aliens, but it's just like not how real people act. Like even Cassidy and Devon, I think, is a really good example from Dino Thunder, because they had their over-the-top, even campy moments, but they also grounded them sometimes to make them feel like real characters. So it's stuff like that that bothers me, is like the really outdated writing style for humor and like weird stuff like that, and like it's like the exact opposite of the clever humor I laughed at in the Power Rangers trailer instead of, oh golly, yeah, I fell over. Like, it's just that caused an incident. So yeah, it's just, that's the stuff I don't like. Okay, but now let's get to the positive things. The ghost is back. Though there will be one not really negative, but just kind of an apprehension in it. But so, I liked the setup. It's really funny that this show started with kind of an opening narration. I think it was the Red Ranger that was doing it, of sort of what happened. And it's funny because I thought that was the opening narration, like they've been doing since Samurai, I think. Or was it Megaforce they started? I think it was Samurai. So like they, you know, they always have that opening narration, and like I kept waiting for it to end. I'm like, oh my god, can you imagine if this is the narration every episode? But it wasn't the opening narration. I don't know if we're gonna have one yet. We might. It might be kind of a condensed version of that. But once I realized it wasn't the mini opening narration, I really liked the way it kind of introduced us to that via narrator. I thought the setup was interesting. Honestly, I think it's kind of like with Dino Charge. There's a lot of ideas I really like here. Like the star that his dad initially pulled out of the Ninja Steel thing was like, I think it's like the final one used for the final mech in Ninja. Not the Lion one, but the full 6 combined one, if I remember. It's been a minute. But, so that was cool, and like he insta-transformed into a Red Ranger, and unless I was just totally like, not, you know, paying attention, I think it would have been cool if they used one of the alternate Sash ones. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched Ninja, you know, at the end, the main guy, Aka Ninja, and then like his dad and grandfather all transformed into a version of Aka Ninja with different sashes. And like the minute they mentioned his dad and brother, I think a lot of people, including myself, assumed there was a good chance they could use that later, which I still think there's a chance they might, but since they already went ahead and had his dad transform in episode 1 as Red, I think it would have been cool to see the sash already, and it could have been a cool callback for later. Like, I guess that I'm going to assume it's going to happen, but I'm not going to, you know, fully assume, just because they did throw some curveballs, like with Dino Charge. Like, when it started, I assumed his dad was going to be Silver, and then it wound up being Aqua, so I like when they throw us curveballs, so I'm not going to assume that, but given he already did transform into Red, so. But I thought that was a neat setup for that. And then it split off into the others, and it appears that these powers essentially create, just like the Dino Chargers, or the Energems, they create basically like an instant ranger system. Like, it's not like, you know, someone's like, hey, we're giving you these powers, we built them, or whatever, or here's the Time Force Morphers. It's like, you touch them and then instantly it transforms you and you have like all these powers and weapons in it. And I didn't mind that when at the start with Energems, and I don't mind it here with the stars. I just really hope we get any kind of explanation on it. Even just a simple line like, oh yeah, these are legendary stars that can turn anyone into a Power Ranger. Like, oh, would I love a better explanation than that? Sure. But at least that would just give me something. Like, I would have just loved that for the Energems if, like, Keeper had just said, yeah, the Energems were legendary for being able to create a Power Ranger system or something. Like, just one line. I'm happy. Like I said, I would like more, but just the one line at least, you know, makes it feel less awkward. And like things like, you know, his dad transformed, there was no Morpher, but granted the whole star was together when it happened, so, but they got Morphers when they weren't, so, I don't know, like, I don't mind that, I'm really apprehensive about them explaining it. That's just my main thing about that. Something else that I thought was really neat was the fact, this is sound weird, but the Brody was like kidnapped at the beginning as a kid, and from my understanding he's been on that ship like 10 years of his life, which is kind of crazy, and a neat, interesting way to start it off. I hope that they explore that. Given the series' like writing style, I don't expect it to go too in-depth, but I think that would be very interesting to explore in the future. The fact that he's basically spent 10 years on this ship as like a slave or whatever. I think that's interesting. It makes him kind of different. It gives him a unique perspective on things compared to somebody who just grew up on Earth. I think that was cool. Like I said, even if it's just a little bit, I hope they take advantage of that. As we saw in the preview clip, Kelson Henderson is back as a character who kind of hit and miss right now. He can turn into various objects. Because I don't think I ever give any thoughts on the clip. But then we have like Redbot, which is like a sentient character, which is obviously going to be involved somehow, whether he becomes it or is inspired by a Zord, which I think is really cool. I actually really like that. I think it would actually be kind of neat if we did that for all of the Automanin, like have a UFO one, Elephant one, Surfer one, get one for Rodeo Maru. I think that would be kind of cool. Like, and speaking of that, they do have various hints at the inspiration behind everyone's very odd suit. Preston turned into a dragon. Sarah had like the hoverboard that was looked like her Zord, and she said it had the strength or the speed of a freight train. And then you had like I think Calvin like working on his truck, and then I can't remember the name of White Ranger yet, but she had like a dog. I kind of hope the dog doesn't become the Zord. That would be kind of disturbing, like get to see the dog get hit by things. But regardless of how that plays out, whether they're inspired by or connected to or transform into it, I think that was a really neat way of setting up Ninja's very unusual Zord setup. Especially I like Redbots and the hoverboard. I think that was pretty cool. That's just kind of some cool thinking there. Let's see, what else do we got? As far as the other characters go, I'm kind of okay with them right now. We only got to see Yellow and White for like a second. It was kind of like Dino Charge, where we focused on a small group. So we just got to see Sarah and Preston, which are very okay right now. I really don't have anything one way or the other. I kind of like, parts with them, certain parts with them, not parts with others. It's kind of too early to fully judge, but I'm pretty okay with everyone right now. I think the only characters I didn't like in this were the comedic relief ones, just because they feel so generic. But there was stuff I liked there. I totally kept forgetting about the game show aspect, and I have to mention that they used the suit of Nero from ToQger, which we saw in the early teaser, I think, that was shown at Morphicon or after Morphicon, early. And so everyone's like, oh cool, they're going to use ToQger villain suits, which I wasn't excited for because the ToQger villain suits are some of my favorite Sentai villain suits of all time. And apparently, as of this episode / the opening, we saw that they changed his face into this kind of goofy looking like monster face, which I'm all for originality, and honestly that wouldn't really bother me so much. In general, just my main reason that it bothers me is I just wanted a figure for Nero. Like, since we're going all in on villain figures recently with Dino Charge, and with knowledge that we may be using one or more ToQger suits, I was excited that we might get figures of at least the ToQger suits, villain suits, because I like them a lot. And so like that was really the only thing that bothered me about that. Like, I definitely prefer his old design, but if they wanted to do original take, neat, and there was no chance of getting villain figures, but that's the only reason that bothers me. It just seems, I'm kind of curious why they did it. Did they think he looked too much like a Dread Doctor? Did they think like, oh, this will just be original? I don't know, but maybe someone probably won't say anything, but I'm kind of curious why they decided to change it. But the main reason it bothered me is the toy, and that's it. For God's sake, man, Ghost, turn the monitor off. So anyway, speaking of, that reminded me of the theme song. So we got like a tiny little snippet of it in one of the previews, but now we obviously finally got it. And I actually quite dig it. I think it's got really neat, like Asian ninja sounding vibes in it. The only thing I don't like, yet again, is the forcing of Go-Go Power Rangers in the middle of it. I think this one had even less of it than Dino Charges, maybe, but they still feel the need to force it, and that bothers me so much because I miss when every season had its own unique identity after a while and its own unique theme, and we're taking a step in the right direction with Dino Charge and then now with Ninja Steel, where it's like 80-20 or 70-30, so it's like mainly its own identity, but then you still shove Go-Go Power Rangers in there, and I feel like this one, it felt the most forced it ever has, and that bothers me. Like, I don't know why Saban thinks that their success is because it says Go-Go Power Rangers in the theme. It's just, it's such a lame phrase that it's lame at any time. Like, I don't think that you're all of a sudden gonna lose your success that you're having right now, which is mainly toy sales, if you take out Go-Go Power Rangers out of the theme. But other than that, I actually dug what was unique about the theme, and I really like that they actually used it a little bit in that little final fight they had with the 3 Rangers. Okay, so I think the last thing I want to say specifically about the episode, well, more broad, but something I just want to point out that I appreciate. The Power Rangers is done in general. They haven't always done it, but specifically for Dino Charge and Ninja Steel, I love that the pilot episode isn't afraid to not introduce everything. Like, that's such a huge problem in modern Sentai, is they introduce you to everyone, they morph, you get a weapon, a morpher, and then the full Megazord formation in like one episode, because they have a weird system about the toys, whereas here we have toys up through like the Elephant Zord already, and you can just buy them at any time. And so I like that we, you know, focused on these core 3, and the next time we'll get to meet Yellow and White more and form that, kind of like we did with Dino Charge. So I really appreciate that. And like, we haven't always done it. We've had one episode pilots like Mega Mission and Lightspeed Rescues, of course Day of the Dumpster. But you know, when we didn't have ones like this, where it was like a 1-parter, we have 2-parters. So I like when we have more room to breathe in the pilots. And that's just something I broadly appreciate about PR as opposed to Sentai or writer, and I think that's a good example here, as well as with Dino Charge. But yeah, overall, like I said, it was decent for me. I'm really cautious because, like I said earlier in the video, there's a lot of ideas I like in here. I think they have some really cool ideas. The same thing with Dino Charge. I'm just really apprehensive about them paying off. Like, I would love to be proved wrong and for a lot of these, like, story points and mythology points that are being set up to be paid off because, like I said, I do quite like them. It's just given the fact that Dino Charge paid off so little of the things I was invested in that they introduced, I'm like expecting the worst. I'm hoping for the best and expecting the worst. But for now, I thought the premiere was solid. I would give it a 6.5. Alright, but anyway, that's about it. Until next time, make sure you got the Crazy Podcast at writersrangerambles.com. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Till next time, Dawson Writer, signing out.